Such a good question. So I think career development is about keeping sharp in the skills that you decided to learn first, right? It's keeping current by learning new skills because we're in an ever-changing environment and we don't live in a time anymore where you can be a single skill journalist. You may love to write, but in order to succeed, you may need to work as a person who can capture video and audio and write to it as well, or appear on camera, or have your voice appear. So having multiple skills makes you more marketable. So you're keeping sharp, you're keeping current on skills, you're keeping relevant. I also think we take training to keep inspired. Sometimes just going to training reminds us of the purpose of why we became a journalist, became a communicator to begin with. So don't discount that. We may be learning to talk about ethics or about disinformation or misinformation and how to counter that in our role. And so that is important because it's mission driven as a journalist. It reminds us of why we entered this profession. And then the other, of course, your career development is to grow because you may want to move from a frontline position to a management position. But you discover when you become a manager, which is where I work a lot with managers, is that the skills that made you a good photographer or a writer or a host don't necessarily make you a good leader of all of the people who do those things. So you got to get some more training to be good at that. You know, I think that the best journalists are continuous learners because I can recall when I first started, I was talking to children at a school and they said, "Tell us about your job," right? And I said, "My job is to learn something new every day and then turn around and teach it to people every day." Well, that's really the essence of journalism and mass communication. It's to be a learner and a teacher. And in order to do that, you have to keep learning. You have to learn to write in different formats. You have to learn to deliver in different platforms. You have to study audiences. There was a time that people said, "Oh, well, we just decide what we believe they should know because we're journalists and we kind of have our finger on the pulse because we're better read or we've studied journalism." But in truth, we didn't really listen to our audiences as well as we could. We insulated ourselves from them and we talked to them and at them. And now we're talking with them because media allows us today to hear back from them, to see how far they've read into a story before they quit reading it. And those things are that audience information can make us better journalists. It doesn't mean that even if a subject wasn't maybe a subject isn't popular, right? Maybe you're doing a subject about the elderly and you think, well, that only appeals to a small slice. But then you have to remember two things. One, everyone knows and loves someone who's elderly. And number two, even if it only appealed to a small slice, if it's important, we're going to do it. And so the why of training is to always keep connected to our purpose. Well, I think there are a few things. If we're very fortunate, we have employers who will support and invest in our learning. Not all of them do. And you may have to do a little bit of creativity. You have to look for online opportunities that may be free or inexpensive. You look for organizations like yours that try to make sure that it's available and affordable to people. You read. I say you look around corners to see what's coming. The other wise thing you can do, even if you didn't have a dime to spend, is that you know colleagues who are good at something you want to get better at. And you can talk to them. You can watch their work. You can ask if they will help coach and mentor you. And then, of course, you in turn do that for others. So take advantage of the opportunities that exist. Hope that your employer ask for what you need from your employer. If you don't get it, Look for what else is available. Do whatever you can to train yourself and to share your knowledge in a reciprocal fashion with colleagues. I'm seeing today a much greater emphasis on leadership training, and that's the area, of course, that I focus on. And I think it's because there's been so much change in organizations. Some people have retired, there's been downsizing. So all of a sudden, people who'd been in management for a while may be gone, and people are suddenly being promoted. So leadership and management training, absolutely. Artificial intelligence, learning about AI and how for better or for worse, it can be applied to the work that we do. And there are many shortcuts that can be done with it. And I'll just give you an example. I teach a course for media managers online, and I ask them in a exchange of emails afterwards what worked and what could work better next time. All I do is take all of that information, all the what worked and what needs work, and I copy and paste it and I put it into Chat GPT and said, could you summarize this for me? And it gave me within minutes a summary that would have taken me probably a couple of hours to have done myself. And I looked it over. You always double check it because you can never be sure that there aren't errors. But what I saw when I did a check was that it reflected what I had put into it. Now, I'm not telling you that you should indiscriminately use AI, but you should learn how to use it well, okay? And then, of course, anything that you can learn about digital skills, because we are moving ever more digital, right? And understanding audiences and audience behavior and learning how to use the metrics behind those things. So digital, social, AI, multi-platform, so we can give the information to people where they want to receive it. Some people want their news from a text. Some people only listen to radio. Some people are getting it all from a YouTube channel. If you're not staying current on all of those potential platforms, you are reducing your impact. Principles, right? The one, and this is my leadership mantra, the most important thing leaders do is help others succeed. It's not about you, right? You used to get the satisfaction maybe of something that you created, the story that you developed, right? The sources you built, all of those things. And that's very satisfying. When you become a leader, you get your satisfaction out of the way you see people who work with and for you succeeding themselves. And when that happens, it's the most wonderful feeling. And then the second principle is life's too short to work with jerks. Don't hire them, don't promote them, don't enable them, and don't be one. The final words I have to say to you is no one can ever take away those things that you learn, right? That's your treasure. The knowledge that you build through career development and through training will help you, even if you change professions later. The communication skills you build, the values that you talk about and reinforce, right? The insights and the inspiration you get will carry you through not just in your professional life, but also as a person. So I wish you all the very best and keep learning.
Stop.